Today, we're going to talk about tactical training for powerlifters. So tactical training, popular for law enforcement. So somebody at the meet, it's like taking a shot of whiskey before they deadlift and it's unlawful. You can put them under citizen's arrest right there on the spot. Okay, just kidding. So what we're going to do is actually talk about tactics for powerlifting, how to do well, like the approach you're going to take to do well at a meet. I was reading Tudor Bompa's latest edition of Periodization for Sports and was thinking about this in general, specifically for powerlifting. So let's kind of break it down here. So what can we do to have better tactics to do well at a meet? So first off would be studying I just made a few notes here. So studying strategic elements of powerlifting, okay? So that can range in a whole lot of different ways. Okay, so for instance, let's say you're going to a USAPL meet, you're gonna go to your IPF meet or something. You could literally be a super heavyweight, guys lifting tons of weight, and the meet could be over in 2.5 hours, okay? You could also have a meet, where I went to one meet, I've never heard of this in my life, but they actually literally took a break for the spotters and loaders and all these referees to go eat lunch at a convention center. So you're there for like 2 hours, meet drug on like 8 or 10 hours. Do they allow fourth attempts? Are there people there capable of making fourth attempts? Are weight cuts a good idea? Weight cuts can be a great idea. You're going for a world record or some personal goal you have to hit, but if it's just a local meet, you're basically going to get practice in, and it's probably not worth doing, a 25-pound cut and you get an IV to do it type of thing. So you have to study those different strategic elements of powerlifting and specifically how it relates to you. Are you there just to hit PRs? Are you there to win? That kind of thing. So then next what you do is you study the regulations and rules of powerlifting, okay? Because this is important too. It's not universal, different federations and stuff. So for instance, if you're competing I've been to meets before and see people just sit there holding a bench press at lockout, just waiting for a start command. But the original rule in the bench press was it doesn't even start till the bar touches your chest. But then they added a start command to see where people are locked out. So point being, if you're waiting for a start command and there's not one in that federation, you're not gonna get it till somebody in the audience that knows what the hell's going on and gonna yell start. So that's important to know. How far before you lift are the weigh-ins, okay? So if you need to drop 15 pounds and they're doing sometimes they've had 48-hour weigh-ins. Obviously it's a lot easier than if it's USAPL meet and it's 2 hours of weigh-ins before. Wraps, what types of wraps are used, all that kind of stuff. Can you have your own liftoff even? Can you have your own spotters? If you lift the weight, can your liftoff person be there and help spot you if you get the hell out of the way? All that kind of stuff. So there's all these different rules and regulations, and you need to know what they are for where you're competing. Can you change attempts? All that kind of stuff. Knowing that kind of stuff ahead of time is going to make you more successful the day of, okay? So the strategies also of opponents, okay? So this can be in a couple different ways, because obviously just was at the law enforcement world games in China. So I'm usually more of I would like to, personally, I would like to hit a PR and get last place than win and not do my best, okay? This is an exception, IPF Worlds, those kind of meets where the purpose is more so of winning than PRs, so that's when you know your strategies of your opponents. Also, the strategy of your opponents in the sense of just different competitors can mean things like, you can learn from, okay, this person always goes 9 for 9. This is how they call their attempts, okay? It looks good on paper, but maybe the person's being a total poodle dick and never actually pushed themselves. So if someone's always gone 9 for 9, that might not be the person to study because they're leaving some of the table. But if they're consistently hitting PRs, getting 8 for 9, 7 for 9, 9 for 9, might be the person to study. If it's the flip side, if someone's bombed out of 75% of the meets they've been in, that'd be a good idea to study their strategy too, because you can always learn from dereliction, if that's the actual word, but you can always learn from people screwing up too, to how not to repeat their screw up. So you can learn from, think about it like this: studying competitors, okay, who you will be competing against. If it's a meet where winning is the most important thing, what type of jumps they take, how often they make third attempts, that kind of thing. Do they blow their load on squats and, not ever live up to their training deadlifts, or they kind of sandbag it and just turn it on to deadlifts, all that kind of thing. And then also emulating people that have had a lot of success and making sure, to not adopt the strategies of those that continually fail at their goals. Okay, so then we can look in evaluating the facilities and the competition sites. so where will you be lifting? It's good to know these kind of things. Will they, you can't know it all, but like certain meets, will have a deadlift bar, and there may be deadlift bars in the warm-up area. Certain meets may allow a monolift. Now they may have jacks in the back to warm up. Then you just go out there and you use a monolift, or they may have a lot of monolifts. All these different they may have kilo plates on the platform, but pound plates in the warm-up area. They may only have kilo plates, so you need to have some sort of loading chart ahead of time so you know how much weight you're actually putting on the bar if you're not good with math, that kind of stuff. So knowing those kind of competition sites and all that stuff ahead of time can be very helpful in your acquisition of a total, okay? So then this is very important. This is probably the most important way to be successful. We've talked about it before, about the principle of individual differences. So developing strategies based off of strengths and weaknesses, okay? So if you're if you're going for a world record squat and that's the most important to you, that's fine, that's one thing. But if you are squatting an all out max, your eyes are totally bloodshot, all that kind of stuff, and you have but then that squat makes you lose 70 pounds in your deadlift and 30 pounds on your bench, and you hit a 20-pound squat PR. So basically, you're down 80 pounds because of that squat. Now, if you're going for a world record, that's your primary goal, that's one thing. If not, you need to be thinking about your whole total, So maybe you should have sandbagged 20 pounds off what your true max was, but then you saved it. So that Boss is pretty hot meat, and I definitely think we sandbagged a little bit on James Strickland's squat, but it got hot and a lot of people weren't deadlifting as well. But he came through with a pretty dang easy 782 on the third attempt. And he set the all-time world record for three lift meet in the bench. So that, proved to be a successful strategy there. Looking at, we'll stay on that same meet with, Julius Maddox there. So what we did with him is at this point in time, Julius is good for 2 attempts. We know that. And it's, you can say this or that, but the bottom line of the guy is so, he just puts everything into each attempt, and neurally it's just like it fatigues him or something. So at this point, we know he's good for 2 attempts. It's not that he's never been good for 3, but we know he's good for 2. So basically we take an opener and then we're going for broke on the second attempt. As you can see at the prior meet to this, hit the 723 very easily. And then he missed, 739. This time, he hit 739, and I put 750 in case, but I looked at him and knew he's too fatigued. And, we're developing that strategy based on hit. It doesn't matter. It's not like right, wrong, this, that. It's pragmatic. It's what's, in this game of chess, where do we move, to say checkmate? Or is that chess? I don't know, checkers, chess, whatever the hell it is. Okay, so I don't play board games. But you get what I'm saying. So we have to do that strategy to optimize the strategy there. So for instance, going across the world to do a meet, you may, with weight cuts and all this crap, you may have to adjust the numbers quite a bit. Because, for instance, just went over Fort Worth PD, won huge in China at the Law Enforcement Worlds. It's different though. People were hitting major PRs, even in meets where they've used like deadlift bars and that kind of stuff. On these stiff bars and all this, they're hitting huge PRs under tough international IPF judges. And the thing is, cops, they're out, fighting crime, very high stress jobs. They, shift work, don't sleep, all this crap. So to them, it's like a vacation, going, flying to China and not having to do anything, no stress. They all lifted their asses off, and it's because of that, for that job, it's actually a boost to travel across the world and do that thing. But like if you're somebody, every day, you go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night, you wake up at 5 a.m., you always hit the gym, at 4:30 p.m. and your life is on a routine, that could throw you out of more of your element if it's more of, a chaotic sleep schedule like a cop would have. So you got to keep all that stuff and base these strategies on your strengths and your weaknesses. Are you somebody that does well with, someone just goes great with momentum? If that's you, you may want to progress, squat be fairly conservative, bench press turn it up a little more, deadlift goes balls out because you build momentum as you go. If you're somebody that, has a catastrophic thinker, and after you miss a lift, the whole meet goes to hell in a handbasket, and you think that way too. Obviously, you want to work to improve all of these things. Of course you do. But you have to face reality of where you are right now. So that's the idea here, is when you're, the tactical training is after the meet, then that's what you do after the meet. So you go back and you critically analyze your performance. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? Okay. So, hey, you know what? I can, on deadlift, every time I go to a meet, I can only make 2 attempts no matter what with a gun to my head. Okay. So at that point, you can work on your work capacity, things like that. It's just once the meet's already there, that's going to be something to address after. If that makes sense. So you want to play to your strengths and your weaknesses, and then you can help build those strengths and bring up those weaknesses after the meet. So you have to think about your tactics to your best in training, because you don't want to just hit one big lift in the gym, but actually think about tactics and help you better at powerlifting meets. Thanks.